I'm not doing it on command. Don't pull my string.
Right. See, I'm trying to make it uncomfortable that you don't want to do it to break you of the habit.
I always
and
want
right
to do
there,
it.
you just proved you don't have to do it.
This goes out to the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. It's hard and it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
I'm really glad I spent a bunch of last episode talking about how good it felt to have the taxes done and have to have that weight lifted off your shoulders and not have to worry about the 2020 taxes for the rest of 2021. Little did I know I'd still be worrying about 2019 taxes.
Yep.
As our previous dickhead accountants were so inept that I got another notice from the IRS today saying, hey, all this money you owe for late fees and the 5% we charge and blah, 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 we're rolling it into your monthly payment. And I thought, I paid all that.
Yep.
I paid all that when we first found out that we each owed so much extra money because of their late filings.
Well, as I found out a little bit later, by the time the actual taxes got paid, because we finally got them from our accountants and it was way too late, then there were more penalties, and then by the time I paid those...
There's more penalties for that.
There's more penalties between them.
Yeah, it's like you have to estimate how much there's going to be in interest and penalties and pay that all in advance just to try to cut that down.
Yeah, gigantic pain.
Again, I want to point out that we gave them all the paperwork they needed in February of 2020. And prior to that, I had
in 2019. No, 2020? Was it 2020?
Yeah, 2020.
Okay. It was for the year 2019. Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
Got it.
And prior to that, I had a sit-down meeting with them to say, this is how we do things. Here, like I gave them everything we got that we turned in for 2018 to the previous accountant and said, this is what we give you. Is this all right? And they said, this is all fine. You can give us exactly this. So I did, and then nothing happened. And then they said, oh, we're waiting for you to give us the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
To which I said, that's everything. And I told you that in person
6
when
months
we
ago.
met. And then they had like 2 or 3 follow-up questions, and then like, all right, it's all taken care of. Yeah. Not on our end, apparently.
No. On our end, it was a series of expensive letters from the IRS.
But also the thing that I don't understand is, and I'm going to dial this back, and as a small business owner, communication to customers is important. And I 100% admit that there are plenty of times where I get questions from customers that I don't feel the need to answer because either the answer is in the email that they were replying to, or it's readily available, or it's just a question I think, I'll say it, isn't worth my time to answer.
Sure.
However, I had reached out to these accountants numerous times to say, hey, it's after the tax deadline, the original tax deadline before the extension due to the pandemic.
Right.
Like, what's going on with our stuff? And I had multiple emails come back, or not, I'm sorry, go unanswered. No replies. And I finally, I started sending different email addresses and just guessing what the other ones would be, saying, did you at least get our stuff? Like, I sent you all of this information back in February. Did you at least get it? And I finally got from their secretary or someone, their bookkeeper, I'm not sure what their role is, saying, yeah, we got it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
At least at that point, it's like, all right, well, they got it. Like, I did all I could do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't mean to keep harping about a thing that's well in the past and we've moved on.
It keeps coming back to us.
It keeps coming back to us.
It's easy to forget about it until you get a very long multi-page letter from the IRS asking you for more money and telling you specifically that they are going to be taking more money whether you like it or not.
So we had an occurrence this week where our DC Comics shipment from Lunar was scheduled to show up on Thursday, and only one box showed up.
Yep.
And after one box showed up, we checked the tracking, and the tracking says 1 box delivered, 1 box label created.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with everything that we both went through around Christmas, with waiting for things that just never showed up, you get a little worried when that happens.
Yeah, especially because label created is the sort of thing where it could mean it is sitting in Lunar's warehouse waiting to go on a truck, which means it's nowhere close to getting to us. Or it could mean that it just wasn't scanned correctly somewhere along the line for FedEx, and it is moving through the system. It just doesn't have any tracking.
And we know from personal experience, when we print out postage labels at the store for our mail order people, the update they get says label created.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else happens until the post office scans that label into their system.
Even if they start delivering it, until they scan it and scan it correctly, you're not going to see any tracking information.
So seeing as how it specifically said, hey, this is a 2-box order, 1 box is delivered, 1 box, just a label's created, I contacted Lunar, and I do recall many, many horror stories that a lot of other retailers have trying to get a hold of Lunar.
Sure.
And I know from personal experience that there have been times where we have sent questions and that go unanswered for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
So I emailed them yesterday. I told you, I'm like, I'll take care of this.
Yeah, this is later in the day on Thursday.
Yeah. So I emailed them. And then this morning I checked the tracking and it said, to be delivered on Friday. I'm like, okay, fine.
Sure.
Then in the afternoon, I get an email from Lunar saying, hey, we just checked your tracking and it's on its way. And I thought, yeah, I already know that. And of course, it's my car's making this noise. Let me take it to the mechanic. Oh, it's not making this noise anymore.
99% of the time, whenever you go to the doctor to say, I'm sick, you suddenly don't have any symptoms.
Yeah.
And you can't you can explain what you're going through, but you can't. Everything looks like you're making it up. Or it's just like, well, the problem's resolved, now what?
Yeah. So they sent the email saying, everything looks like it's fine. And I responded to them saying, thank you very much for your response. I'm sorry I jumped the gun. I just got anxious, hoping that there would be nothing wrong with this box.
Right. Because again, it was 50-50. Like when Ken, who was working Thursday, told me, and then I told you just on the thing of like, should we give it another day or should we contact them? And the better situation is to contact them, because what if it is something more serious? What if, oh God, no, the box is sitting here. We didn't realize it didn't go out with a FedEx shipment. We're going to get that out right now, whatever. And you don't do that, and all of a sudden Tuesday rolls around and you don't have your books. But yeah, it turned out that what happened was the more predictable thing, which was, nope, it just didn't get scanned right.
So I always assume better safe than sorry.
Right.
And the majority of my emails to Diamond, to Lunar, to Penguin, Random House, or whoever, any distributor, except Southern Hobby, it'll always say Challengers, then our account number, and then the body of the text.
Sure.
In the subject, it'll say Challengers, account number, date, and a brief description of what it is.
Sure.
Just so they know immediately what it is and who we are, and also that I can go back and look and just see by the header when these things took place.
Yeah, I do similar stuff. Like, we have to email Penguin Random House every week to say, hey, we placed an order, we need to get our car charged. And so the subject of all those emails is always, the account number, the specific PO number, and then what we want them to do with it. So that even if they don't read the subject, or even if they don't read the body of the email, they know what email we're sending.
I used to occasionally do that with Southern Hobby, but our relationship with Garrett is so casual that I don't need to say who we are.
Sure.
I'm not opposed to doing it that way. I just feel that is unnecessary information.
Yeah, it's unnecessarily formal for sure.
Sure. So it's not. I'm not trying to say, oh, they don't deserve it. I'm like, no, they don't need it.
Right.
But I'll happily give it if that's a thing that they want. So, and then when Lunar responded right away, I wanted to thank them for doing that. Yeah. So I did. I'm like, thank you. I got anxious. I jumped the gun.
Of course, yeah.
And on our side of the conversation, I do feel justified in sending that email.
Right.
But had we waited, everything would have been fine. But we wouldn't have known. And then they responded, hey, no problem. My point in telling that story is that it is communication both ways, so each party is aware of what is happening. And then when they do their job, I thank them for doing it.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what I was just explaining happened to us with the tax people, where it just goes unanswered for forever.
And it costs us thousands of dollars.
I feel like that is a thing that happens to us a whole lot in business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I sometimes do it to people. And
I don't know that we've cost any of our customers thousands of dollars.
no, I know. But I mean, there was an exchange today where someone's like, hey, can I get this Star Wars book?
Sure.
Or no, they said, can I get this week's Star Wars book? And I said, which Star Wars book? There's 2. Mm-hmm. And they came back with, well, what's the difference? And I'm not going to tell you, because all that information is in the email that you're responding to. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's 2 completely different High Republic books coming out.
Yep.
So when you say, oh, I want High Republic, which one? Mm-hmm. There's an adult one and there's a child one. But I'm not going to say that because I already said that in the email.
Yep.
And there's a call out for Star Wars Adventures, High Republic, which starts with, this is an all ages book.
Yep.
So, and then when emails just keep going, there's a point where I just stop.
Yeah.
And if it's an important question or a question that they need answered, fine. But if it's a question that I don't think they need answered, I'll let it go.
Sure.
I'll let it go. And that is petty and argumentative, but imagine...
It's one of the good things about owning your own business, is that can be enough.
Imagine, if you will, every subscriber did that to us.
Uh-huh.
You would never get anything done. Literally,
Sure.
You would not have the time to do anything else.
I have to be very specific about when I send out subscriber-wide emails.
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, this is just the nature of the beast. Like, I'm going to get a lot of responses, which is great.
Yeah.
It means people read the emails. But it means that I have to make sure, like, okay, when I send this out, be ready for 15 emails to come in the next hour. And be ready to answer them and work on them and resolve the questions and orders that they have.
And that's fine, but doesn't it bother you when the questions they're asking are questions that were answered in the email?
Yeah, that was the thing that would always bother me, and it's not a thing anymore because of when, like, each month we'll usually copy over certain subscriptions to new books. If someone's down for Comic Book Volume 2 and Comic Book Volume 3 comes out, we're just going to copy over the orders from 2 to 3. I would always get frustrated when I would make sure to do that before we send out the monthly subscriber emails, giving people a list of their subscriptions, and it would say Comic Book Volume 3 on there, and then I would get people, within minutes of sending out the email, responding back, hey, make sure I'm down for Comic Book Volume 3. It's just like, literally look down 3 inches in the email, and you will see Quantity 1, Comic Book Volume 3. Like, having to do that, of not only having to double check that to be like, I thought they were already down for it, or going to add them for it and then getting a response from Comic Suite saying, you can't, they're already down for it. And I realized, oh, I wasted not a ton of time, but a little bit of effort in doing this thing that someone was already covered for.
Right, and then multiply that by several hundred.
It's not great.
And just the number of people who don't put their names on the emails.
Especially when you have an email address that is not your name.
Yeah.
That's the tough one.
Or if you do say, hey, thanks, Bill, how many bills do we have in club? There was an email today. I'm like, I think I know who this person is. Or there was an email, not an email. I said email.
Yeah.
Let me double check their email address in the system, which again, wasting more of my time.
There's some people whose email addresses I know because of the fact that they don't identify themselves in the emails, and I've had to go look up in our system, who is this? Because oftentimes it's faster for me just to look in the system and do it, then email them back and be like, who are you? And now I know what their email address is, just top of my head.
And I go so far out of my way, if I need to contact a company rep with a question, to make sure that question wasn't answered somewhere else. I had a question for Boom, and I remember Morgan had said something about it in an email. Could not find the email. I was in the process of, I'm like, man, I'm going to have to email her, and my email is going to have to be, hey, I'm real sorry to bother you. I know you told us this before. I can't find it.
Was the question, is the title Something is Killing the Children or Someone is Killing the Children?
I thought it was Someone's.
I mean, that's why
killed the children.
why we would ask Morgan.
Huh.
Because she'd know.
She would know. I didn't ask her that question, though.
She's very high up in the chain now. She probably had someone tell her what the name of that book was.
But then I searched one more time, and I changed my search parameter, and I found what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And I did not have to send that email. And I know she would have happily answered it professionally and given me the information I needed. But again, I don't want to waste her time.
And quietly resented you.
Sure. And then bitched about it on her podcast. Wait, that's what I'm doing.
Oh.
So maybe part of that is because I know what it feels like, so I don't ever want to do that to someone else.
Sure.
And that's why I am, even with Lunar today, I'm like, hey, thanks very much.
Yeah.
I jumped the gun. I didn't jump the gun. Again, I feel justified in what I did, but I want them to know that I value their time.
Yeah, it's a good practice.
I just wish that other people... And the part of that, a big part of that, is the casual nature of our relationships with customers, like us with Garrett. Mm-hmm. That people just see it as them asking their pal, oh, hey, what about this thing? It's like, I don't want to tell you.
Sure.
It is a byproduct of doing business, and there's a level of...
I was going to say it's a byproduct of your general exhaustion with doing business.
And when you say you don't mean general you, the royal we, you mean me.
I do, and that's fine. Once again, this is one of the perks of owning a business, is you don't answer to anybody. If you feel like what you're giving people is the appropriate level of customer service, no one can argue with that. That is your distinction to make.
Well, honestly, I feel like I give way too good customer service.
Sure.
So I need to dial that back.
2021 is going to be the year of terrible customer service?
Well, no, normal customer service by any other standard.
Okay. But you would consider it terrible service?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I have standards.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Can't be argued.
Another thing we were talking about last week, that long pause was because I'm like, where do I want to go next? What do I want to...
A lot of routes to go down.
Where are we going to...
What are we doing?
Where does this lead? But since we started with something we talked about last week, also last week we had mentioned the social media presence of the large stack of books from dropped club members. Mm-hmm. And I want to point out the positive side of people and social media is we received several offers from people who saw those posts saying, hey, I'll buy those from you and give them away, or can I send you money?
Had a phone call even, not just social media.
Yeah. Can I send you money and you can buy those books and then just give them to whomever you want? Or, hey, here's a dollar amount, why don't you go through and pick a bunch of stuff that you think I'd like, and then I'll buy it from you. And so as a result of that, I want to thank Arnaldo Rivas, and I apologize if I butchered your name, who sent us money via PayPal to literally give books out to people. Thank you, Arnaldo. To Dusty Voss for offering to do the heat. Stop that.
That's right. I always have to do the Dusty Rhodes thing when you say Dusty Voss. It's bad. I'm a bad person.
Is it just for Dusty Voss, or literally anybody called Dusty?
Dusty Voss. I don't know anyone else named Dusty, so it hasn't been it hasn't come up enough. Maybe some of it is because of the short Voss at the end.
Yeah, like Rhodes.
Dusty Rhodes. So yeah, you can do it for Dusty Voss pretty simply. But yeah, if it were like a longer last name.
So thank you, Dustin, for that offer, and also former Nerd City podcast host and now Los Angeles resident Max Miner for also offering a very similar thing. And there were more people whose names I didn't get. Or
I'll shout out Justin Query as a guy that approached us wanting to do something nice for small businesses in the midst of a pandemic, and seeing how much we got burned with stuff made him go, hey, maybe challengers. So that was very nice of Justin.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's great. Thanks, everybody. Basically, by the time you saw the post, those books were already reshelved.
Yeah.
It's not like we kept the stack behind the counter or anything.
Yeah, and a bunch of people had done the, hey, if you see something good in there that I haven't read, let me know. And the thing we told a bunch of people is, do you want the last 5 months of Batman 5 times over? Because that's what's in here. Yeah,
I know a little bit about the stuff Dusty likes. He's not an avid, he's not a regular Challengers customer because he's a Southsider, and I don't know how often he reads comics. but I would feel comfortable picking books out for him, and I don't think anything in that pile would have done it.
Because it's like 4 months worth of stuff. A lot of it is just kind of random issues in the middle of a storyline. Or one of the things that we do whenever we're cleaning out unpicked up subscriptions is that we'll go through our special order book to see if anybody has asked for any of the books that were on reserve that are now going to go back on the shelf. Literally nothing. Literally nothing from those massive stacks of books was anything anybody had asked us for that we were not able to fill. That's how much this was stuff that was already just clogging up the system.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that where you'd even try to sell it online, it would go for less than cover.
Yeah.
It's never...
These are things we basically already had for the most part. A few things that were like a Batgirl 50 or somebody was looking for a detective issue that we actually had. But this was all orders that came in after we put everything back on the shelf, not anything that people had said, oh, please get this for me, and we managed to fill that order. We didn't. I mean, there was no like Daredevil 25s or Star Wars High Republic 1s or TMNT Last Ronin #1 First Prince. That stuff always gets picked up.
Right.
The hot books, the in-demand books, always get picked up. Those people are highly motivated. The people who get like, no offense, I like this book, Wicked Things, not highly motivated. That goes back on the shelf. Again, post-Joker War Batman, nobody cared. Got a lot of copies of 101 to 105 on the shelf.
I don't know. And I feel like maybe it's because of the level of the quote-unquote quality of the books they're getting that they kind of fell off and don't come in for their books.
Maybe. I mean...
That's all subjective, though.
Yeah, of course. But that said, like, it's not like I was looking at, a stack of Kaiju Maxes. Those weren't going back out.
Right.
Those got picked up. But it happens. I mean, there's any number of good books that people don't pick up. And, people have asked us before about, why people aren't picking up their books. And it's like, I never know because we never find out from them. They ghost us. Occasionally you'll get someone coming in months later going, oh, I was going through this in my life, or, oh, this was happening with me financially, or, oh, here's why I wasn't able to come in and get my books. But 9 times out of 10, it's just, you'll never know. They either don't care or can't get them or whatever. There probably is no big secret to it. They just didn't want to come in and get them. The end.
It's always offset by the people that go out of their way to do these like Herculean gestures of effort to get in.
Sure.
People who have heart surgery and come in the next week.
Yeah.
People whose children die and they call us the next day.
That was rough. Yeah.
People who have
that was rough.
major leg surgery and come in on crutches, barely able to walk, saying, I don't want you guys to get stuck with these books.
Sure, or people who have had positive COVID tests who get friends who don't live with them to come in and get their books and drop them off at their door front.
Yeah.
So that their books are picked up and they can read them, B, they're not leaving us hanging with anything. The funny thing, or like the sadly funny thing, about any time that we go public with delinquent subscriptions is that the people who are the most concerned and the most like immediately contacting us and saying, I will be in soon, I'm super sorry, are the people where it's like, you were in 10 days ago.
Yeah, it's not you.
Yeah, you are not the people we're complaining about. The people we're complaining about will never see this.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there were a handful of people, I feel, who...
1 or 2.
Yeah, who were part of the cause.
Yeah.
But for the majority of it, like 98%, 92% of the people responsible would never see it.
Right. And the thing with it was...
Because you had to pay attention and remember, oh, you have comics.
Right. And care. The thing of it was, for the 1 or 2 people that would be like, oh, wait, I am one of those people. I will definitely be in. I'm super sorry. Whatever reason. We got like 10 people who were like, oh my God, I will definitely be in. And they were in no danger of being delinquent. They were not a problem whatsoever. They are like, it always makes me feel a little bad when we go public because the people it most affects or that get most anxious or stressed out by it are people who are in no danger, who are not causing any problems. And we almost can't make them aware of that because the second they see it, they're like, and this happens a lot on the podcast where people are like, oh my God, was that me they were talking about? It's definitely not. Because the people we're talking about don't listen to this.
That post started with 82 subscribers didn't come in at all in December. And we had multiple people who did come in during December say, I'm so sorry, please send me an invoice. like even the listed criteria, that's not you.
No. And that, I mean, it's again, it's sadly funny because I don't want to stress anyone out. I don't want anyone who's doing what we ask of them when it comes to holding their books to feel like they are not doing enough. So yeah, it's funny, but I wish it wasn't causing problems to people.
I do want to point out that whenever we make a post like that, it is just to say, hey, this is a thing that happened.
It's not a problem to solve.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not looking for advice. We're not looking for your take on what you would do in that situation.
Yeah. This is frustrating. It's the cost of doing business.
We've been doing this a long time. We know how to do things, and if we don't do it your way, we have our reasons.
Right.
So for the
as
people
I've said
among
a
you,
million times, there's no magic bullet to solve this. No one in the industry has 100% solved it.
the people that have advice and have, well, I think this would work. Thank you. Keep it to yourself. Well-meaning or not, there's reasons how we do what we do. And for every single time someone says, you should just keep a credit card number on file, please don't say that.
Yep.
I will not get into all the reasons why, but we don't do that for...
Go back in the archives. We've talked about it probably half dozen times by now, because that comes up every single time like clockwork.
There was...
As someone who doesn't own a comic shop and has never worked in comics retail, let me solve that problem for you. Don't bother.
There was someone who was appalled that we were shaming people in this manner. This was on Twitter, and I almost responded, but I looked and saw that they had 7 followers, and I felt like me responding would almost validate it.
Oh, God, no. Yeah.
And I didn't have to, because our good friend Ryan Voss, who's his brother?
Oh, I think his name is Dustin.
You're right.
I'm not doing it on command. Don't pull my string.
Right. See, I'm trying to make it uncomfortable that you don't want to do it to break you of the habit.
I always
and
want
right
to do
there, you just proved you don't have to do it.
That's off.
Damn it. Ryan stepped in on our behalf, and it was wonderful.
That's nice. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah. Yes. So there's good people out there.
There are. It's true. I've met at least 4 of them.
No, didn't you hear what happened to the fourth person?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's
I technically did it with one of the other people, so it's like, well, I guess it's 2 now. All right.
Well, it wasn't the second person's fault.
Still. I mean, I don't want to
Right.
litigate it. Two people. I've met at least 2 good people.
And one of them's really good. So
It's true.
that kind of like
pretty great.
elevates everybody else.
Almost a great person.
With the Comics Pro annual meeting coming up, they'll be doing a charity auction to benefit the Bing Foundation.
Neat. The Comics Pro charity auction is usually pretty fun. You've contributed a few times.
Yeah, and we're doing it again this time.
Yeah.
I had Gina pull out
A bunch of prints.
a bunch of prints. Yeah.
I had to log into the system, and that had been left on the register computer.
Oh.
So I'm like, what is this for? And now you answered it.
What was on there?
Oh, it was basically a list of the prints and the specific numbers.
It was the list. Okay.
Going.
Because I'm like, no one looked up any prints in the system yet, so I had her do that on that computer.
Yeah.
So
we could say, yes, this Becky Cloonan one, and these specific numbers for the Becky Cloonan ones.
I was going to be like, man, that's amazing that you, we're so in sync. You knew exactly what I was going to donate.
Exactly what the process was and how you're going to do it. No, I got an email earlier today from someone asking to add 2 books, and one of the books they asked for is one that hasn't been solicited yet.
Okay.
So basically to do yes, I added the first book. Please watch the catalog emails every month, and when you see that second book in there, then you can let us know.
I also got an email. Wait, did you get it directly?
I think so. Okay. Yeah. Some subscribers email me directly.
That's fine. Some subscribers get confused because if you answer an email, they'll start addressing it to you.
Yeah.
And then I'll answer it, and then they'll start addressing it to me.
Yep.
When in fact the email goes to both of us.
It's true.
Another customer had asked for a book I'd never heard of, and it was a 3-word title that they made as 1 word.
Right.
So I had to be like, okay, well, let me look up as 1 word. No, that's not it. Let me try these different iterations to find out. Oh, it's already sold out.
Yeah.
It's not a thing we're going to get. But yeah, we're donating 2 sets of 14 different prints.
Cool.
And I'm not sure the procedure because it's the official request for stuff hasn't happened. But I took a bunch of photos and put them up on Facebook for the Comics Pro people just to give them an idea of what it was. And I don't know if...
Do you think John from John and Carl is going to buy them all again?
You know what he's donating?
No. Your shield?
A thing that I have...
You're gifting it?
right over behind the giant cupcake. He's donating his oh wait, is it down here? Oh yeah, I can see it. I can see it right here. The original Squadron Supreme graphic novel that contains Mark Grunwald's ashes.
I don't have that anymore. I guess I got rid of mine.
You got rid of yours, yeah.
Yeah.
I was surprised you did.
I mean, the story doesn't mean a ton to me.
Sure.
And Mark Grunwald's Mark Grunwald, but it was when we were
Not
opening
anymore,
the store
so.
and I gave up like 85% of my graphic novels. Because I was just like, we can sell this.
Just like Kiss putting their blood into the ink, Mark
Only
Grunwald
the first print.
was cremated and his ashes were mixed in with the ink for that book. And you can see in the printing process where they were on the press. Like,
really?
yeah, you could see, like, because the
man.
color doesn't, like, hold in a certain spot or whatever.
I wonder if it looks weirder now.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is what John and Carol are donating.
What a ghoul. How dare he?
I don't think we talked about this on the podcast last week, but later that night, like late that night, like early in the wee hours of the next morning, I've done a lot of store work in the wee hours of the morning this whole week, being up to like 3 or 4, just on a roll. It's like, I'm gonna work on stuff.
That's great.
And last Friday night, I had an idea, and I bothered you at, I think it was like 1:30.
It was pretty late.
I think it was like 1:30. I'm like,
Really
hey,
late in the AM.
what if we do this? And you're like, really? And then we talked about it, like all Challenger's ideas.
Yes.
And
Starts as a joke, and then it's like, is there something here?
and honestly, like, it came to us because a customer had asked.
Yeah. And you dismissed it out of hand, and I kind of laughed about it.
Well, I mean, I said, yeah, you could do it. Here's what you got to do.
Sure, but you specifically said, we are not doing this.
Yeah.
Like, that was not happening. And then...
And then the more I thought about it, I thought, what if we do it?
Uh-huh.
So what we're talking about is what has the potential to be the biggest selling comic of the year.
Sure.
It already raised $1.4 million on Kickstarter.
That's a lot of millions of dollars.
It is from Boom Studios. It is a book co-written by Matt Kint and a newcomer to comics, Keanu Reeves.
Seems like a nice Canadian boy.
And it is Berserker #1. Berserker is a 12-issue, basically, if John Wick was an immortal.
It's John Wick meets Old Guard.
Okay. This is Keanu's idea, and he's co-writing it, and I don't think it's just like him saying, hey, here's the synopsis.
Sure.
And Matt Kent writes it. I think it's a lot more collaborative than that.
I wonder. I would be very interested to hear exactly what the process is, because generally the assumption is, Keanu Reeves is contributing a broad idea, like this is the kind of story I'd like to see, and he's contributing his likeness, because basically the main character in Berserker more or less looks like Keanu Reeves. And he's contributing his star power, which is how you make $1.4 million on a comic book Kickstarter.
I thought that was the dude from Cyberpunk.
Johnny Silverhand, I believe he is suing Boom for how much Berserker looks like him.
Oh, okay. That's
how
fair.
much Keanu Reeves has ripped him off.
I was going to call him Johnny Sunshine, but that's because of the Liz Fair song.
Okay. But yeah, I would be very interested to know how much Keanu has worked with... I can call him Keanu, can I? How much he has worked with Matt Kent specifically to break down the story and create whatever Berserker is going to end up being in a 12-issue storyline. My assumption, as always, is, this is to make some sort of pitch so, Netflix or Sony or whomever will make a Berserker movie starring Keanu Reeves at some point in 2022 or whatever.
Well, when I said we're doing it, and so far we're just talking about the comic book. Which,
the comic book,
Berserker.
Berserker.
Of course we're carrying it, of course.
Yes.
I believe months ago we talked about Berserker's Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I remember making the cover image for it.
Yeah, well, one of the things that Boom, and not to keep getting off track here, but one of the things Boom had done and how this kind of mostly came to our attention was Boom had sent out an email saying, hey, we are offering Berserker as a series of hardcovers outside of the comics industry. 3 4-issue hardcovers, as well as a variety of different, signature tiers and all sorts of stuff. So they were letting us know this content is going to be released in comic book form in a channel that you will not have access to, which I think at the time we had talked about and we were basically fine with. We didn't see it as being something that was going to necessarily pull from our customer base. There's probably some high-end people that would skip out on getting the single issue comic from us. I remember at the time we were, I don't know if I use the word critical so much as maybe perplexed / skeptical, maybe? Is skeptical the word I wasn't going to use?
I don't recall.
I specifically found one of the offers of Boom for the Berserker Kickstarter to be really funny, which was this is going to be great for you that we're selling directly to consumers because we are going to be able to email them to say, hey, Berserker, the book that you already spent $150 or whatever on to get all of at some point in the future, you can go buy issue 1 someplace else right now. Even though you technically already bought issue 1, we just haven't sent it to you yet. Like, that idea of this is win-win felt to me very like, I don't know the world that makes the most sense in, and it's probably not the one we live in.
Well, the interesting thing about the releasing of the Kickstarter reward graphic novels is that while there's 3 of them, you get them all at the same time.
Yeah.
You don't get them every quarter.
Yeah, so there's basically a year between when the first issue gets released and when these hardcovers will probably start to roll out, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, there doesn't have to be. There should be.
Yeah.
But there doesn't have to be. I mean, they could honestly have just decided, hey, this whole thing's done, if it is.
It clearly isn't.
It clearly isn't.
They changed artists,
but if they
had to push it back by months.
But hypothetically, let's say they finished all 12 issues.
Okay.
They could have released all 3 hardcovers in April, even though the single issue comic isn't coming out until the end of February. Like, they could have jumped the gun on it, but they didn't. So, I mean, while I assume that they're not going to do that, it's not like there are mechanisms in place to make sure that doesn't happen. That's just them either not having the content available or deciding not to do that.
The thing that I'm still curious about is that if you are waiting till the whole book is over, why not just do 1 volume?
That is interesting. I wonder why.
But I think I know the answer to that. I think that
too difficult to read.
Well, for the comics industry, for sure, they will be doing 3 graphic novels along the way.
Yeah.
So they would already have the
format
layout and design and the format all set up. They just have to make it hardcover and maybe throw in some extras.
That makes sense.
Like, why would you spend twice the amount of money for production design if you don't have to?
That's a really good point.
That would be cutting into profits.
But yeah, so Berserker #1's coming out. They pushed it back because they changed artists from Alessandro Vitti to Ron Garney. We finally got a PDF of Berserker #1 this week because FOCs are in 2 days.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I thought it was a very fun first issue. Ron Garney is a great artist. He's the perfect artist for this story because it is moody and incredibly violent, and that's so his style right now.
I have a Ron Garney Captain America Sentinel Liberty page that a very good friend of mine got for me.
He's all Ryan Voss? Dusty Voss. Ron Garney, is doing some incredibly cool, like, it's, if you've read some of the stuff that he's done, like on Conan, it's similar to that now, where it's, instead of the thin lines he used to use, it's very thick, chunky marker lines. Provide a lot of dynamism to the artwork, a lot of...
I think he started that with Men of Wrath.
He might have, yeah. I think that was when his style really started to shift up.
Yeah.
When he started to do more mature reader stuff.
It's a really great noir series.
His characters are... The designs are done by Raphael Grampa, according to a minute-long Keanu Reeves video I watched today.
Take it away, Keanu.
Hi, I'm Keanu Reeves, and I'm excited to introduce you to Berserker, a new comic book epic that kicks off in comic stores everywhere. It's a dream come true for me to create Berserker and collaborate with legends in the industry like writer Matt Kent, artist Ron Garney, color artist Bill Crabtree, letterer Clem Robbins, and artist Raphael Grampa, providing character designs and covers, along with the great folks at Boom Studios. Creating and co-writing Berserker is a thrill for me, as I've loved comics since I was a young kid, and they've been a significant influence on me artistically throughout my career. If you want to pre-order your copy, just contact
Challengers,
which you can find by visiting
shop.challengerscomics.com,
and let them know you want them to pull a copy of Berserker for you every month. That's all it takes to join us for this exciting 12-issue series about an immortal man cursed with power, forced into violence, and searching for meaning in a life consumed by chaos. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy it.
But the artwork is very John Romita Jr. influenced now. It's much thicker characters. There's more weight to everybody on the page. The first half of the book is just a massive action sequence that is incredibly gory and very fun. The second half is a little bit more building out the world, sort of explaining what the characters are and how, like, what the framework is for the story that they're telling. I really enjoyed it. I thought the first issue was very fun. I was glad that it was very good because we are ordering 1,000 copies of Berserker #1.
We are ordering 1,000 copies
Ordering 1,000
of
copies
Berserker
of that book.
#1.
Hate for it to be terrible. Just before we started recording, I'd mentioned that I'd read the PDF because you had just seen, I think, that you'd seen that they'd sent one out, but you hadn't had a chance to read it.
Basically, I opened it this order day, but all I could read was the first page because I got busy.
And you were like, how was it? And I'm like, well, we'll talk about it on the podcast. Like, I didn't want to have to talk about it twice.
Sure, but I wanted to know if you liked it, because if you didn't like it,
Maybe
like,
we
if
don't
you
talk
really
about ordering
didn't like it,
1,000 copies.
maybe we don't order 1,000 copies.
But no, it's good, and I think it's worth ordering.
Okay, Dal, but why 1,000 copies?
Why 1,000 copies of a book? Why that number specifically? The highest end variant that Boom Studios is producing for Berserker #1 is a 1 for 1,000 John Boy Myers variant cover that is signed by co-creator Keanu Reeves. Certainly the less important of the two writers, but I'll take what I can get. That is going to be, that's the highest tier. That is the one that should command the most money. And it's basically why we're doing this. We don't usually do variants, and we certainly don't do incentive variants. We don't do stuff that we have to mark up. This was a thing where this one book with a Keanu Reeves signature was something where we're like, this could theoretically be something that someone's going to want that we could actually get. There are four main covers to Berserker #1 and a 5th blank sketch cover. Those are like the regular order what you want ones. Beyond that, there are another like 10 incentive variants at levels like 1 for 10, 1 for 25, 1 for 50, 1 for 100, 1 for 200, 1 for 500, and then 1 for 1,000. And there's a few at some of those tiers. Like there's a few different 1 in 100s or 1 in 25s. So a lot of different variants. And we just looked at the math on it, and we said, we think we can make this work. It's still a gamble, but there's enough things in place between the how much the signature variant could go for, how much the other variants could go for, and the fact that Boom does have the Boom Guarantee program, which means that if worse comes to worse and, you know, we get stuck with 900 copies of the regular covers of Berserker #1, we can return those to Boom for credit. That's not getting our money back exactly. That is money that's tied up, and that's the real downside of this, is we have to front all this money, and it could take us months to potentially get that money back in any form that we could use.
And let's be honest here. This is thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, 1,000 copies of a book that retails for $3.99.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no,
this
is it $5?
I don't remember. Maybe I think it's $4.99. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
$4.99.
Yeah, it's a $5 book.
We don't ever chase variants.
No.
And we have a history of saying that whenever we do something for the money, it's a failure.
Yeah, there have been a few times where we've gone heavy on certain variants that are like cover artists that are hot or whatever, and we don't really see it, but we buy into the hype, and then no one cares. So yeah, I mean, there's every chance that this could be a thing where no one wants the Keanu Reeves autograph. $1.4 million on a Kickstarter makes me think that there's probably an audience out there that would pay extra money for a Keanu Reeves autograph. It's not like his autographs are, you know, limitless. You can, even on Kickstarter, they limited how many signed prints they were going to be including with the different packages on Kickstarter. Keanu's not a guy that you see, you know, on the Wizard World circuit when that was a thing. If he's ever at a convention promoting something, you know, you might be able to get in line and get him to autograph the 8.5 by 11 promo poster that a studio put together for a project, but it's not like you can just, you know, walk up to him and pay for him to sign a Matrix poster or whatever.
And maybe this will change because of Berserker, but to my knowledge, he's never done a convention.
Yeah, so this was the thing where Keanu as an actor and the knowledge of how big and rabid his fan base can be, and it being a comic book that we actually sort of believed in, even before we got to read the PDF. I like the creators involved.
Yeah,
I like the company that's making it. So this wasn't just the usual vanity project thing of like, oh, this is going to be garbage. I don't want to just get a bunch so that people can get their, you know, Keanu souvenir thing. I actually believe this could be a good book.
If we'd come to this earlier, would you have been interested in doing a store exclusive?
Not really.
Yeah. Just because we'd be automatically meeting the...
Sure, but at the same time,
threshold.
they wouldn't be returnable.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, that's a huge part of why I said okay to this, and why it was something that I thought could make financial sense, was that there is the safety net of the Boom Guarantee Program. We've had other books, DC's done 1 in 500 variants or whatever for Batman books, and we haven't chased those, even though we could probably flip them online, because it's like, what do we do with the 500 copies that we didn't sell?
Yeah.
This is a thing where, yeah, I mean, theoretically, if we order 1,000 copies and we have 400 left over, that means we sold 600 copies, which is amazing. I mean, the highest selling books we've ever sold, we haven't sold 600 copies. But those 400 copies, we get to give back to Boom, and they give us some money back.
I've always felt that companies should do, and this is obviously a thing I don't want to have happen to us, but I've always felt that if you are returning a high number, you should have to return the threshold variants that you got as well.
Sure.
Like, if you're returning 500 books, okay, give me back the 1 in 500.
Right.
But that means if you sell a single one, you have to give back the 1 in 1,000, because you're not giving back all 1,000 books.
At which point it's basically non-returnable.
So we have all of these things, all of these covers listed on our online store at shop.challengerscomics.com. Right on the front page, it's the second thing up there, the Berserker collection. You can see all the different covers.
Yep.
They're all up there. There's 2 different blank covers. There's a white one and a red one.
Yeah, the white one is the regular cover price one. The red sketch cover is the 1 in 10 variant.
Also, the prices that we're charging are up there as well.
Yep.
And it's a little weird to me that we've had several club members just outright buy them.
It is interesting.
Like, club members, you can just ask
tell
us for those.
We had some people do that. Like, one subscriber specifically was like, I want the 1 in 25 Liber Mejo as well as the regular cover. And it's like, I can put you down for that, no problem.
Yeah, that's the Liber Mejo 1 in 25 is the one that we're doing the best on so far.
It's a great cover. The variant covers they put together, I think, are honestly pretty strong. Liber Mejo does a few, and then there's different variations on the basic Raphael Grandpa and Mark Brooks covers, foils and sketches. There's a good Dan Mora one that just kind of weirdly comes in there at like the 1 in 200 variant. It's just a random Dan Mora drew one.
Yeah, this is like a profile, right?
Yeah,
like
it's just him. Like it's the Berserker character holding like a bladed weapon.
I mean, I think Dan Mora is the signature Boom artist. He's doing a lot of work for other studios, but I feel like, or other publishers rather. But I feel like he's definitely a Boom created talent.
Sure, seeing him do one wasn't a surprise. The thing that surprised me was there was not a Jenny Frison variant. That's the thing that was like, man, like they signed Jenny to a big old contract to do variant covers, and you've got what's arguably, I can't imagine it wouldn't be, Boom's biggest launch of 2021, and it's like, no Jenny Frison variant, no Peach Momoko variant. You made such a big deal about them, and I think Jenny would kill it on a Keanu Reeves cover. Like, that would be great. So a little weird. I mean, I assume that that's maybe a down the line thing. I haven't looked at
maybe
the variants
Jenny's
for
is
2 and 3.
1 in 1,000 for number 2.
Or maybe Jenny's doing a store exclusive variant that someone's doing for Berserker number 1. I don't know. Anyway, Berserker number 1's coming out last week of February, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, the 27th.
If you go on our website, you can find out exactly when they're coming out. I should mention that there are 2 variants that will be coming out on a different schedule. The 2 foil covers and the 1 in 1,000 John Boy Myers Keanu Reeves signature variants will both be coming in later. Normally what Boom does is foil covers take longer to produce, so they'll usually offer those on final order cutoff a week or 2 before the other covers. Because of how the 1 in 1,000s are working and the different tiers they're doing and how all those covers combine together to set what you can order for other things, they decided to list absolutely everything on the same week, which I personally appreciate.
Especially since they want to make sure we got a chance to read the PDF first.
Right. But the downside of that is it means that because of the longer production schedule for the foil covers, they'll be coming out a week or 2, I think 2 weeks after the regular covers. So if you are ordering the C or D covers, which are the 2 foil covers, you will be receiving those 2 weeks after the release of Berserker number 1. Also, the 1 in 1,000 variant not only needs to be produced, it needs to be signed by Keanu Reeves. So that is going to take a little bit of time. So they're expecting that one to be shipping the second week of March, but they're also cautioning it could be a little later. Like,
Sure.
they're going to figure that out. I should mention, if you are someone who does buy the 1 in 1,000 variant for the currently listed price of, I think it's $2,999.99, you do have the option of getting it CGC graded in advance. That is something that Boom offered today, which we really appreciate. We'd already had people asking about the possibility of it being CGC'd. I certainly think it's a smarter move. The last thing I want is for a $3,000 comic to be put in a Gemini mailer and just shipped to us, and finding out, oh, it's got a crease on it. Great. Now it's worth significantly less than it was supposed to be. So if you do buy it, contact us, obviously, or we'll contact you probably, and we will work to get it CGC graded. It will basically go out from Boom's headquarters directly to the CGC, who will grade it, and then the graded copy will be sent to us. We will cover the fees for that. That is something that will be included with your purchase price.
What?
You don't think so?
First I'm hearing of it.
I mean, I guess we can cut this part out.
It's also the first I'm hearing of this whole CGC part.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what the grading cost is going to be, but I can't imagine it would be enough to make it unprofitable for us to offer it to people.
Okay.
I feel like it's kind of the least we can do if someone's buying a $3,000 comic book, is not charging an additional fee for getting it graded. Since it's Boom is covering the shipping cost to get it to the CGC, we would just pay the CGC guy and then the shipping cost to get it sent to us.
I mean, I feel like if that's the case, we should just get it CGC regardless.
I mean, we probably will.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't buy it, we would just get it CGC, because, again, I don't want that thing showing up
yeah.
in anything less than the most ideal condition.
Also, under those circumstances, we are
No one's buying a
not
$3,000 comic.
in any way are we guaranteeing any condition.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, even though the book is getting CGC graded, Boom is not guaranteeing a specific grade. We are not guaranteeing a specific grade. Everyone involved is going to do everything they can to get the best quality copy possible, but this is not going to be there's no contingency on this. This is not, if it's not graded at 9.8, I'm not buying it. Like, no, that's not how this is going to work. But understand, it is a fresh copy that Boom will be packaging well, sending to the CGC, who will be grading it and slabbing it. It will be as pristine as it can possibly be. So that's another thing. But anyway, yeah, we're ordering 1,000 copies of Berserker #1. It's a good comic. It's one of several good comics I read this week in PDFs.
Nice. We'll get to those later.
I figured.
That's not time for that now.
Okie dokie.
Did you read Silvercoin?
I didn't. That wasn't one of the ones I read. I read other ones.
Because we kept forgetting to talk about this, and by we I mean me, I forgot to bring it up multiple weeks in a row. I sent out a separate email. I abused the Challenger's email setup to send out a separate email last weekend about Challengers being in the running for the Chicago Readers 2020 Best of Chicago Awards, specifically for Best Comics Shop.
Yep.
There are 5 stores total. There was a whole nomination and runoff voting process to be able to get these 5 nominees. I never mentioned a word about that. I didn't bring it up. I hate badgering people for votes, but I want to make people aware of this. And also, once again, we're up against Quimby's. And
who's going to win? Quimby's is going to win.
Quimby's is not a comic shop.
Quimby's is going to win.
And
Quimby's always going to win.
They've even said directly they don't know why they keep getting nominated in this category. They are an independent bookshop that carries zines. They are a great independent bookshop.
I'll tell this every time we bring up Quimby's when it comes to whether or not they're a comic shop. I was sitting behind 2 women on a bus on North Avenue a couple years ago, and the bus had just sort of stopped nearby Quimby's. And one pointed to the other and said, "Oh, that's Quimby's. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's the best comic shop in Chicago." And I went, "Yep, that's it."
Yeah. They have a better reputation than Chicago Comics.
Yes.
Who owns Quimby's?
Yes. Who is a legit comic shop? It's
Yeah.
even got comics in the name.
They're also up for best comic shop.
But they're not going to win. Quimby's is.
Yeah, but they win.
Sure, but I mean, I'm just saying. Like, Chicago Comics, again, the comic shop is going to lose out to Quimby's, the zine store.
The bookstore that sells zines.
Yes.
I'm not saying you have to carry Spider-Man to be a comic book shop, But
when the people who own the store go, we are not a comic shop, maybe they should make them ineligible to win Best Comic Shop in Chicago.
regardless, if you think that we deserve it and you'd like to vote for us, I made a tiny URL to make life easier. It is tinyurl.com /chal, CHAL -reader.
Chal Reader.
Chal-reader.
Chal-reader.
Just one L in Chal. And that'll take you to the Shop Local page. You still have to scroll down about 2/3 of the way to get to the Best Comic Shop section.
Or you can vote for other stuff, too.
And, well, I mean, yeah, but even voting through, you're still scrolling down.
True.
They do want your email address. The Chicago Reader will ask for your email address to do this, and I realize that may be annoying to some people, but as you are giving them your address, you could unflag all of the boxes that say, hey, send me story updates or subscription information or whatever, so you can make it so they don't actually send you anything.
Yep.
And, yeah, it would be, it would be nice to... Well, win is the word I'm going to say.
That would be nice.
This is a thing I always talk about because you don't care either way.
Nope.
And it's been a while since we won an award.
It has, sure.
We could... it's a nice little reminder that people...
It's weird to look up sometimes on the award stuff and go like, oh, most of those awards don't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like there was a point where it was like, oh man, we haven't won Best New Comic Shop. Well, obviously, you're not going to win Best New Comic Shop indefinitely, but we weren't winning like Best Comic Shop in Chicago. And it's like, oh, because those magazines don't exist, or the ones that do don't run that category.
Yeah.
Or the ones that run that category, it's just a writer going like, oh, this is the comic shop I shop at that I like. It's not like they hit every store in Chicago. They just went, oh, I go to whatever store, so I'm going to spend a paragraph talking about that. And then, like, we get a bunch of the Diamond Best Practice Awards. Diamond doesn't do those anymore.
Well, they do it only when there's conventions. They might again.
Maybe.
One of the things specifically about this award is that a thing I don't think people realize is that it's the best store for 2020. And I think that we did a whole lot of good things during the shutdown, during the pandemic. You know, we were available to people in ways a lot of other stores weren't.
That's true.
And I think that, and no one's going to consider that.
No.
They're just going to look at the list and say, oh, this is my favorite store.
Yep. Yeah,
go from
this
there.
is the one I shop at, or this is the one that I care the most
like,
about.
that's why I think it would really validate a lot of the things we did and the things that happened to us in 2020, having that award. So if you're listening, if you could hear my voice, you are eligible to vote. This isn't a Chicagoan thing only. It doesn't matter where you live in the world.
As long as you got the internet.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say you can use every email address you have, or if you have a VPN, you could work some magic with that. I'm not going to say that stuff.
Thank you. I'm glad.
All I'm saying is it's tinyurl.com /CHAL-reader, and you could vote from there. Our fate is in your hands. Thank you for that shameless plug.
When is the voting open till, do you know?
Noon Chicago time, February 8th.
Oh, okay.
So we're not going to
another week yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to be badgering people pretty much again. I don't even know that I'll do it in the next podcast because that will air on the 8th.
Yeah, most people will have already heard it by then.
One of the annoying things is we won't find out until mid-March who wins.
Oh, just enough time for me to forget about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then for you to randomly say, guess who won?
Oh, come
Best
on.
in Chicago.
You'll
and I'll
forget
go,
about it
Quimby's.
before we finish recording this episode. Another thing we're doing, there's a lot of things that have been announced and finalized.
Very active 2021.
This week. Yeah, it's weird. Like, we have all these non-event events happening, including the sale, which starts Saturday.
Yeah, February 7th.
No, Sunday. This Sunday.
Yeah, it's a Sunday through a Saturday.
This upcoming Sunday, the 7th through the 13th. It was 2 years ago this time that we participated in an international sales battle with a random store in another country. I forget who. Extolling the virtues of Little Bird #1 from Image. And it was a fun little contest. It was country against country, city against city. We had a lot of fun little vocal sparring internet trash talking.
Yes.
And more importantly, we got to raise the
Profile.
Thank you, for Little Bird, and for the majority of the people that bought it, they really, really liked it.
Yeah, artwork gorgeous, fun story.
Yeah.
Continued to sell well after the sales battle.
So we were approached this past week to do it again. The book that has been chosen, I'm not going to say now because I think that it's up to them to announce it because it was their idea.
Okay.
And I don't know what their time frame is. When it was suggested, and actually I was asked if I could guess, and I immediately got it.
Wow. Okay.
After the joke guess of Darkhawk, to which the response was, wait, there's a new Darkhawk book?
Do we need to pitch that to all the Kyle Higgins people from Radiant Black since he's doing a story in it?
Sure. So once the book was suggested, I said, this isn't fair. We're going to kill you.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy.
And they said, no, we can handle this.
Okay.
And then there was a little bit of trash talking on the internet already.
Good-natured sparring.
Which is always fun until someone crosses a line
Mm-hmm.
and compares us to the literal worst human being in modern history. And that's when things stop being a fun little contest, and we're just going to beat them now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not even. I mean, anybody who knows us knows exactly what the story is, but I'm not going to dignify them by saying their name right now after what they called us.
Especially because I think last time they lost so bad they had to change their name entirely.
What?
No, they didn't.
Yeah, that's not true.
That's not true.
It was extremely close last time. We won
No,
by like...
They lost so bad they had to hide their shame. That's why we're not even mentioning them.
I
Because
mean-
I don't even know what their new official name is yet.
They definitely were beaten so badly they had to move. They had to condense their store.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so mean. But not as mean as what they said. So there.
True.
Doesn't justify it. It just means that there's a new sales battle. And more details on that later. This is the second... And none of us ever planned to do another one. But this is their suggestion. So I guess this is the second. So, you could say the return, the revenge... beta, number 2, whatever. It's all
Still working on it.
Yeah, something like that. So Dow, comics, what'd you read?
I read a few preview comics that we got sent PDFs of from various publishers. Specifically, in the last couple of days, I read Berserker #1, which I already talked about. I read that right before this episode of Contest of Challengers, the comics industry business podcast. That was really good. I enjoyed Berserker. It's very much a very actiony, very violent comic book. So if you're into that,
Oh yeah, for mature readers, don't forget that.
yeah, it is incredibly violent. But I liked it. I liked Matt Kint is the writer. So while it's more straightforward than some of the stuff that you've been reading from him recently, there is still stuff going on kind of in the background, especially in the second half, where it's like this is going to get a lot weirder, even though the beginning is very straightforward. I liked it though. I liked it a lot.
For Matt Kint fans, let me just jump in and say that Crimson Flower just came out this week.
Yeah.
With a very, very bizarre art style, but a
Yes.
really good story.
Yeah, it was fun.
And he has Fear Case coming out next week,
with
Tyler
Jenkins.
who they did Grass Kings together.
Yes. And I think, did they also do Black Badge?
Maybe.
I think so. Yeah, Fear Case is good. It's a weird, twisty, slightly supernatural LA mystery. I thought it was a solid first issue. Like a haunted version of like 100 Bullets. It's really good. The other stuff I read Orphan and the Five Beasts.
Oh, nice.
The new James Stokoe book. Unbelievably gorgeous. Oh my god. One of the prettiest things he's probably ever done. If you're a James Stokoe, not even a fan, if you're someone who's just vaguely appreciated his artwork, definitely subscribe to this book. It looks amazing. Our numbers are going to go way up. The sort of book that you want to put into a lot of people's hands because it's like the artwork is gorgeous and the story is a really fun martial arts adventure. A lot of masters on hidden temples and people who have crazy powers because of their chi and stuff like that. It's very manga influenced as far as how the action works. If you've ever liked a samurai or feudal Japan anime, like this is definitely along those lines. It's really good.
Also, speaking of James Stokoe, a lot of people don't realize he did the art for Batman Annual 5.
Yeah, because
they came out like a month ago.
Cover. So people just bypassed it because they're like, oh, I don't read Batman.
But we still have a bunch of copies of that.
We do. I also read Jonna and the Unpossible Monsters, or whatever that thing is called from Oni.
Oh, yeah. Joanna? Yeah.
Jonna?
Jonna?
It's great. Chris Samnee does the art and co-writes it. It's like Orphan and the Five Beasts. It's very art-driven. There's a story, but like there's not a ton of dialogue in Jonna. It's intended as an all-ages kind of prehistoric adventure book almost. Or post-apocalyptic. It's kind of both. But it's great. The artwork is great. It's fun to see Chris Samnee drawing like crazy monsters and I say monsters, but it's like dinosaurs and stuff like that. It's not scary in any way. It's the sort of book that anyone could read. It's very much along the lines of like a book that Jeff Smith might do, where it's, actiony and adventure-y, but sweet, and the core of it is, a sister trying to find her lost sister. Like,
I believe the original title was Jonna Save Humans.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that a lot. That's another one I think we'll order up on a bit.
Speaking of Chris Samnee, he is currently drawing Firepower from Image.
He is, which is great.
I just like that I had the drop in for the first two things you mentioned, so I figured
there's one more little note.
Keep going. Also, I do want to point out that we've known about this book literally for years and never ruined it, never told anybody.
It's kind of how it's coming out while he's still doing Firepower.
We were told about this from Oni when it was like when they had just acquired it.
Yeah.
Not specifics, not detail, but we knew that they had a new Chris Samnee all ages book.
Yeah.
And
it's a miniseries. It's great.
We kept our secrets.
It's very fun. I read the first 2 issues, which usually when they give us PDFs of more than issue 1, I'm like, just let me read issue 1 to see if it's any good. But this was like, I want to read issue 2 right now. So that was great. Those were all fun books. I've still got a bunch of other stuff. Oh, I read Nocterra. They gave us a PDF for Nocterra, the new Scott Snyder, Tony Daniel book. It was all right. It's very sci-fi adventure. It's one of those like I know there's been sci-fi stories where it's like in the dark there's all these monsters, and it's nighttime all the time now. It's similar to like your what was A Quiet Place or Bird Box or stuff like that, where it's like the world changes overnight and existing in it is deadly and people are constantly mutating into monsters.
Oh, so it's just last year.
Yeah. Mixed with some sort of like weird like Mad Max trucker stuff almost. I liked the first issue okay. It felt a little derivative again in the sense of like I feel like I've seen a bunch of these. There are small pockets of humanity because the entire world is deadly due to regular thing that suddenly is now all the time now.
I feel like that's kind of what Scott Snyder is doing with Charles Soule in Undiscovered Country right now.
I guess I only read the first issue of that. I did not care for it. But Nocterra is good. It's well, maybe not good. It's fine.
It's good at saying.
I don't want to oversell it. I liked it okay. It's not one I think I'll stick with. They do some interesting things with some of the character designs that I was into. But the core story I just was not completely dialed into. It just, like a lot of high concept Image books, it's like, oh, this is a movie pitch. So it felt a little bit like that. It's worth checking out, though. If you've liked any of the Scott Snyder DC stuff over the last couple years, this completely fits into that vein. It is structured very similar to your Dark Knight death metals and things like that. So yeah, his DC fans I would definitely recommend at least picking up the first issue of Nocterra to see what you think of it. Otherwise, if you've not really been into the Scott Snyder stuff, I don't know that this is going to change anyone's minds. It's not written in a different way. It's not trying to get at different things.
And I read Silver Coin.
How was that?
I liked it. It is.
Did you just read issue 1?
Yeah.
The Chip Zdarsky issue.
Yeah. I don't believe. Did they give us more?
Did it? Yeah. So Silver Coin, the gimmick is.
I'll tell this one.
Okay.
I read this one.
No, I mean I was going to say like how they're producing it.
Yeah. Okay. So it is a horror anthology. They like to do those things now in the vein of say Ice Cream Man, and whereas that one is the same creators with telling single issue stories that kind of tie together, this is the same artist with different writers telling interconnected stories, all based on a coin that may or may not be cursed. and as it travels from people to people. So it's Michael Walsh, who is the artist, is drawing all the issues. The first issue is written by someone named Chip Zdarsky, and it is about the music industry and a band who really wants to, make it big in music, like every band does.
Sure.
I'm not entirely sure, but it looks like every time we see the coin, it's actually gold. So I don't know about that.
Ooh, weird.
But they have other big names coming up as other issues. I can't think of anybody else right now.
Kelly Thompson, I know, is one of them.
Kelly Thompson is one of them, I've heard. And that's a new image book that I think will do well for us.
Yeah, probably.
Did you not read it because it's horror?
No, I just haven't gotten around to it.
Okay, because it's not really horror.
I didn't prioritize it because it's horror.
Okay. I prioritized it because it was Chip Zdarsky.
Sure, and I'll definitely read that one. I'm probably not the audience for it, though. Like the other stuff I read because A, I'm excited about it, B, I want to know how hard we can push it.
Sure.
Silver Coin's one where it's like, if I think the execution is good, I'll probably order more copies, but I don't know that I'm ever going to be the guy who's like, you've got to read Silver Coin, but maybe.
Yeah, I think this could be comparable to Stillwater numbers.
Sure, great. Happy to order up.
We just went beyond it by 2 sentences, but you had used the phrase, not the audience for it, and I was going to say, as opposed to you, listener, the audience for this Contest of Challengers comics industry business podcast from Challengers in Chicago that you just listened to. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
That was super clunky.
It's the best one you've ever done.
Oh, thanks.
It's the
Thanks,
most listenable.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.